No one wanted Nike in skateboarding. Too big, too corporate. But at Nike, there is no finish line. Nike was leading in sport. They had budgets and global reach. But the one thing they didn't have at the first two attempts was credibility. Skaters smelled bullshit a mile away and saw Nike as the enemy after the first two failed attempts. But then they came back for a third with new leadership under Sandy Bodecker, stacked internal crew, curated team of athletes, great product, and this time it worked. This is part one of the untold story of Nike skateboarding.
1, 2, 3, 4.
He's no one, she's no one, we're no one.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Co-Pro podcast powered by Nemo Design. My name's Scotty Keating, and I am here with my co-host today, the co-founder of Nemo Design and legendary photographer, Trevor Graves.
Hello.
So on these podcasts, we've been focused on interviewing artists, leaders, athletes, really inspiring people who stand for this idea of collective progression, hence the Co-Pro podcast. And today, my friends, we are going to rewind, take a look behind the curtain of the untold stories of Nike skateboarding. Now, everyone knows the legend of Nike SB, the iconic shoes, Heat collabs, wild rise from underdog to one of skateboarding's staple brands. The sneaker collectors have written chapters of editorial, athletes have told their stories, and there's no shortage of documentaries breaking down every dunk release. But here's what's different about today. We have never heard, seen, or spoken with the crew who started it all at Nike. Product is king, is what Nike says. But to build a great brand, you need great people, the right people. We're gonna peel back the layers of myth, memory, and some missteps from 1996 to about 2013. And this is one of those rare chances where the people behind the brand can open up, get honest, pull off the handcuffs, and tell it like it really happened. All in. Get ready for the stories, the struggles, the behind-the-scenes banter, the broken rules, and a few surprises. This is the insider story of Nike skateboarding. Absolute honor to be here with our guests today, Michael Hernandez, Hunter Moreira, Darren O'Brien. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. We're here in Portland. Hot. It's nice.
Nice.
Love it.
Feels good.
We're all back together in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
And again, appreciate you guys coming in too, and again, making some intro. So again, what we want to do too is establish like what roles you guys all were playing on the team, so that when somebody that hasn't experienced or knows this story kind of knows what role you played, so that we can kind of have areas of expertise. And we'll go into that stuff a little bit later because you all had different things that you contributed on a high level, and we want to make sure we tell those stories as well. So again, I'll go back to talking with you, Michael, because that's where we started, was with, you were at that time on the ACG program and hired me as a snowboard shooter to start shooting the team there.
When you mean as a project that I was involved in.
That's where we met.
Yeah,
but again, you had also been all at Nike for years before that. So
yeah.
I see you as sort of this bridge between, let's say, the old school and then this new school, and being able to know
I'm old?
old
Is that
school.
what you're saying?
Yes, you're
100%.
Right.
You're seasoned and experienced in a good way. But it's that I think there's a special role that you played on this team, and being able to bring that wisdom and knowledge and to this team. And so again, there's other things. Again, you grew up in California, maybe, and if you guys have some insight too, as what you think he did or question about where he came from, I'd be really curious to know that too, because you know Michael very well. But yeah, California surfer, got to work at is it O'Neill?
Snowboarder.
Yeah, thanks for those are some nice words. I appreciate it, Trevor. Yeah, so I think part of it is just a little bit of the background. So a simple way to think about it is like migrating north so I grew up in Long Beach. I went to Long Beach Wilson High School. So I consider my hometown to be Long Beach, but really I lived on the border of Seal Beach. Like literally the sign was like, you could almost see it from my house. And so I lived maybe 2 miles from the beach growing up. Could ride my bike with my board under my arm. So that was kind of a luxury, right? Because it's like, not everyone gets to live in a kind of beach community. So I think, the migration was like, I needed to get out of Long Beach. So finally my dad was like, hey, what do you think about San Luis Obispo? So he was like, you know, presented an opportunity for me to, because I was a terrible student in high school, C student, took the SATs and all that, but it was like, what do you think about, because I was at Long Beach Community College, which is just not great, but it wasn't going, like, it's not in a good situation, never leaving the town I grew up in. So I went to a junior college in San Luis Obispo, and then had to apply once a year to Cal Poly to the design program. If you didn't get accepted in the fall, you had to wait an entire year and reapply. So I had 2 shots at it. First year I applied, I had my associates, I applied, didn't get in. My dad was like, that's not a good look. And then, so then the second time I applied, I had to wait a year, portfolio sent in and everything, didn't get in. But then I went in and like literally went into the dean's office and said, is there any way I could get in? And they got me in. So I won't tell the full details, but I was able to get in.
Good.
So I graduated from Cal Poly with a design degree. And then I got a friend of mine who left the same program at Cal Poly, was at O'Neill. And I'd grown up wearing O'Neill wetsuits, some rip curl suits, but mostly O'Neill wetsuits. And I'd surfed since I was, 12, 13 years old. So I was like kind of following what I knew. Just by the way, like I never try to be divorced as like, skateboarding, like, oh, Michael's not a skateboarder. It's like, dude, I skateboarded. It's like the classic, I don't know who said it, but like Southern Cal's interesting. Like you skated after you surfed. I mean, the wind would pick up at 9:30 and it was done. And if you missed it, you missed it. What are you doing the rest of the day other than school, right? So that era of the influences around me were interesting. So like my local surf shop was Harbor Surfboards. And we were talking about this the other day with Keating's, like when you walk into the Harbor Surfboards, the older dudes would just vibe you. It was like Supreme in New York when people came in and they were looking at all the things and they're like, yo, don't touch, don't be touching stuff. And then like, do you have a large? And they're like, no. Sometimes they would go back and come back and they didn't even look. They'd just come back and like, nah, we know that, right? Because they were like, you gonna get it or you're not gonna get it? But so there's a fine line between like being like aggressive toward, younger kids and whatnot, but it's also mentorship of like the older dudes holding it down and like, hey, don't, like you'd say, don't wild out or whatever. Like, so there's an element of how I grew up, they call it good, bad, or indifferent, that I carried through a lot of the way I critique design or, which we can get into a little bit later, but like, and so I got a job at O'Neill, and it was the in-house art department or design department. So it was probably 20 of us. I was just a designer, and it was kind of paved the way through things that we can touch on later, which is the idea of an in-house department is the luxury is there's not a bunch of agencies involved and you're responsible for product, brand, retail, etc. Trade shows were big back then, ASR, all that stuff, Surf Expo. And so I kind of cut teeth on a brand that was pretty much on fire. Like the wetsuits were the heat, the Animal came out, the surf team was pretty stacked with like, some significant names, that were on the team size around athletes. And so that was really an appetite for like being part of a brand where you could hang out with the athletes. They'd come to the office and you were doing hang tags, t-shirt graphics, print ads, videos, trade show booths. Basically, there's no guardrails. And so that's the theme of when we get to SB, a little bit about the way that I saw the opportunity to create an environment given the leadership of Dan Burris. And Sandy Bodecker was, when I got the tip that I could get a job at Nike in 1991, they flew me up in 90 because I had another Cal Poly friend of mine who was working at Nike. So got the job. I was a designer one. I was working in the Jordan building on the 4th floor. And my job was basically supporting apparel teams via graphics, trim packages, t-shirt graphics, etc. And I'll cut it off at the point to where what my job was what the environment was. So the environment, the era was leaving O'Neill, a core surf brand, to seeing Nike try to do aqua gear. So y'all remember aqua gear? Y'all remember aqua gear with this aqua sock?
Yeah.
Okay, so the team, so I was in Santa Cruz working for O'Neill, and we're like, uh-oh, here comes Nike. What is it going to look like? And it was Laird Hamilton in print ads that were done by Wyden and Kennedy with this arms up in the air guy, you know, and we're like, oh, this is perfect. It's not, they don't know. There's just like no threat, because it's like this doesn't look like it's going to appeal to who we knew our core audience was. And so when I got to Nike, they were doing ACG, which was kind of like your dad's hiking brown shoe leather ACG brand. They were doing aqua gear. I was witnessing like ACG not succeeding, and I knew I inherently knew like from a consumer standpoint why, like how the athletes were being managed. They were approaching it from like how an ad agency would build a brand. Okay, and then the product was just whatever. It was just kind of crazy color palette and whatnot. And then ACG was kind of stuck because the industry started to move into snowboarding was on the rise, mountain biking was on the rise, free ski, like the technology was changing, the equipment was changing, and they were kind of stuck in some very cool stories on footwear that were, you know, pretty notorious, like the potato shoe and the Rivederci and the Armada. And what's the favorite ACG shoe from back then?
Wildwood.
Wildwood. Yeah, so they're pretty good shoes, right? But they were kind of stuck. So I'll leave it there as like I was kind of walking in there observing this company, Nike, that was kind of on fire with like Jordan and Spike and Mike and all this stuff was happening. Bo Jackson and all this stuff, and was just like completely eyes wide open of like, oh my gosh, I'm working at Nike. So I'll just leave it there.
You chose they chose you. You didn't choose Nike first.
I chose. My friend was working there. I was like, if I could get a job there.
Cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Love it.
So I got the job, which was, I had the portfolio to get the job, and so so that was '91. So very interesting. Like the new campus. Just so if you've seen like the Air Jordan movie, they talk about all these buildings that were off campus in Beaverton. I arrived and that was like the new part of the campus had just been built. So it was all new. Like
Mia Hamm
the
and all
lake
that?
was there and the cafeteria was
crazy.
there. And I was just like, dude, this is like perfect storm right here.
It was
like,
91.
91.
You know what's cool about that, man, is like, which I've known some of that, but to hear it now is your attention to detail and your experience from O'Neill. And I think what you brought over and all the things, from the books to the labels to the business cards, like that level of detail.
Yeah.
I think it inspired us, and it also like told us all like, you better think of every goddamn detail, because if Michael sees it, you better think about it all.
I mean, Scotty needed to have the meeting agenda through when we were getting started for this. Michael's.
Oh yeah.
It's an
What?
expectation. No, nothing. You have
Well,
an
I mean, it's
expectation.
just like
That's-
we've all
You don't.
had,
You don't even
we've
need.
all had
you
a
don't
lot
need
of
to
history.
respond.
No, I like it. Yeah, no, run a show. ROS.
Honestly,
Like I can appreciate the run a show
Straight up.
because it gives everybody equal opportunity to kind of know what it is and what it isn't.
And also, I mean,
Like-
again, so you know what you're getting yourself into, and I think that's what I appreciate about you. I don't know if we're going to go around and say everything we appreciate about each other, but yeah, Michael. Again, Darren's talking about the obsession to detail. You definitely brought that when I came in.
Thanks, man.
It was seen. I mean, that Nike Air catalog that was at ASR. Like when I first saw that, I was geeking out, and of course, when I got to finally meet you, and like, yeah, we did this, and this is why. You see the truck setting. I'm like, court. Like it was awesome. Like the attention to detail, and then also, again, as much as you don't like to be surprised. You definitely like to put the surprises in and the Easter eggs. So
Yeah, for sure.
and I really appreciate all the things that you've done there. But yeah, man, I like your attention to detail and then their structure. As much as we will go into stories that were like, oh, we're flying by the seat of our pants. Yes, but we did have structure, and I also think we just weren't lazy, and that's something that you.
Well, let me throw something back at you. So both of you guys grew up. It's interesting. So let's just move outside of Nike for a minute and just talk about how we grew up. Those people around us, and then like how we kind of chose to navigate through the like showing up to skate somewhere that wasn't like your spot, and like I mean, if you want to, what was it like? SJ, dude.
Right. But that's a great segue too, again, and kind of introduce yourself right now.
Yeah.
Darren O'Brien,
Yes.
hot off the Jersey Turnpike,
Yep.
and jumping on
Literally.
the team.
What exit?
Literally.
98, son.
And then just, again, letting everybody here that's watching the show today is like, I put you in a bucket of sales, right? And so there's more to it than just that. And again, we'll start this whole story at 2002, but you came in a little after that. And so bring in the idea of like how you ended up on this team in the first place.
Man.
And some of your background too, so again, we can understand like there's an authenticity piece that I think everybody should pay attention to with why Sandy Bodecker, who will be a big part of this story coming up. But again, it's like the vision of going, why you guys? Like, it's like out of all the people that Nike could afford, they came and picked you numbnuts. I mean, you guys, you professionals. And so, why are you on the team? And then what's the background that helped you get to be on this team?
Oh,
Yeah, you got to answer this question. Who vibed you in Jersey back in the day that helped?
everyone
made you
vibed.
come-
Everybody, dude.
There's a lot of that.
Like everywhere. Yeah, so I'll give you a little background and maybe reminder. So, born in New York City, grew up in Jersey.
Puerto Rican.
Yeah, Irish Puerto Rican. Yeah, you only find those on the East Coast, man. And there's not a lot of
Taylor
us.
ham or pork roll?
It's pork roll.
Come on.
No, come on.
Taylor ham.
Chill. We'll have the argument later.
Taylor Ham?
You
Don't
gotta
worry
be
about
there.
it. Yeah. If you don't know, you don't know. But grew up in Jersey, claimed Jersey, as you all very well know, which is awesome. But from living in New York and having kind of a diverse background as a whole, like I was really inspired by like just graffiti, music. If you think about it, in the 80s, what was happening and what was going on in the streets and breakdancing and all that stuff. But skating, like that's all we had, It's like play handball, play hoops, but like discovered a skateboard and that was it. But in Jersey, I thought I was going to be an art, like a fine art was going to be my school path. And I was like, what am I doing? This is not going to go anywhere.
Were you good at drawing?
I mean, I was decent,
Bubble letters.
mad bubble letters.
You got it. I've seen it.
Yeah, I synced it.
Dobbs.
Yeah. So, wrote graffiti, skating a lot, Philly, New York, around Jersey, whatever the case may be. But wanted to get in the industry as a whole. I was always fascinated by like skateboard graphics and just everything that kind of inspired all of us. And would study magazines like crazy, like we all did. But it all started in skateboarding. Discovered surfing and then snowboarding later on. As a whole, but like music and art and all that really got me. Decided when I kind of was like, what am I going to do with my life? Started repping. So I was a sales rep.
Okay.
So I repped a bunch of different brands, whatever I can get my hands on.
What was your favorite brand you rep?
Man, there were so many little ones. Here's a crazy one that
clothing
maybe
brands?
people don't know. Is for a minute, for probably like a year, I actually was a sales guy on the East Coast for Consolidated skateboards.
Wow.
What year was that?
That was probably 96.
Oh, it was, yeah.
Yeah, like
100%.
don't do it. The whole shit.
All right, you brought it up.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'll
dude.
pay that.
Yeah,
I'll-
that's a perfect
Peterson.
storm right
It
there.
was
yeah, it was sick,
sick.
dude.
Right.
Karma.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah, foreshadow.
Anyway, I'll pay that off in a second. But anyways, a rep, and then just through skating, knowing a few people, Zoo York needed some help, so I went and helped those guys. So like Rodney, Jeff, Adam, Eli, and we kind of all worked together. This was when Zoo, man, this was 98, 99, so like mixtape
Hunter.
just dropped, which was next level for us. That was like Zoo was like our pride and joy as a
Best
brand.
soundtrack.
It's still ill. And that was an amazing time too, because that was New York in the meatpacking district.
Yeah.
Was 13th in Washington. So it does not look anything like that,
Yeah.
like it did
Right.
today.
It was still meatpacking.
Meatpacking, dude. Would go to work and the meat packers were like dressed in their white shit with blood, drinking like Budweiser tall boys at like 8 o'clock in the morning.
I was gonna say they
taking
start
a
work
break.
when it's still dark.
Yeah.
Loading fish
There
out.
were-
There is
Yeah.
dark when they start.
There were like, hookers everywhere. Like it was nuts back then. Anyway, so I worked there for a while. It was like sales, we kind of did everything back then. There was only a few of us. Fast forward a little bit, and one day, out of nowhere, this dude just showed up in the elevator. And he had bleach blonde hair, mad bracelets, I can't remember, like tight ass pants, crazy colored shoes, bright t-shirt, jacked. And it was Sandy.
No way.
And we were like, who the fuck is this guy? Because no one came up there. Like,
Right.
it was like if you worked there, you worked there, but it was not, if you skated for Zoo or worked at Zoo, you came. Otherwise, it was like, you're not allowed up here. Like, whatever. And Sandy came up and met Sandy. He spent a lot more time with like Eli and that crew at the time, because that's how the Zoo Dunk came to be. But over time, they needed help with like distribution to understand like shops, and we sold boards to a majority of the shops, especially on the East Coast. And that's how I got Nike. And then a phone call happened, and it was like, hey man, we need some help. Are you down to talk to us? And I had to interview. And I'll pay off the consolidated thing, on my resume, because I didn't really have a resume. Like, I don't think any of us did back then. You're probably the only one that did.
Oh, I have.
I had to like doctor up a resume, and on the resume I had consolidated on there. Just because in my head I was like, oh, I need to like,
Yeah.
I've worked for all these brands and I've done all this shit, and like, all right. And and they didn't even, no one knew.
They didn't
They had
blink.
no idea.
Yeah.
But I remember when I did interview at Nike, I genuinely thought I was going to be there for 6 months. I was like, they're not going to fucking figure this out. But I mean, shit, I was there for a while. But I remember the dude looking at me sitting there, and he's like, hey, listen, you seem like a good dude. You seem like you know the space. You seem like this is good. And, you have Sandy's blessing, essentially.
Yeah.
He's like, I just want to let you know you're the first and last person that I'm going to ever hire without a college degree.
Ouch.
And I was like, okay, 6 months it is. And and that was it. But there's so much other stuff in there, and understanding what Sandy was trying to do, because he was going to LA, right, to figure out what was happening in LA in the industry, and then he was coming to New York. And if you came to New York back then, you either went to Supreme or you knew the guys from Zoo. There were a lot more people, and there were a lot of other things happening, but
Yeah.
those were like the two spots. And yeah, man. And then it just kind of went from there.
What year was that?
That was Sandy. Met Sandy. It was, I think it was right before 9/11. So it was sometime in like the spring of 2001. And then I started working for Nike in June or July of 2002. Actually, Kevin Imamura and I both started at the same time. And that trip was when it was the EQ and the Earl, which I'm sure we're going to get to later. And we flew a bunch of retailers from East Coast and West Coast. I think there were like 5 or 6 retailers came. That was my first meeting ever at Nike.
Yeah,
And
let's
it was me and Kevin,
let's come back around. On
Yeah,
that.
yeah, sorry.
That's when we talk about where the filters, you got to have filters, and you can't have, you can look at everything through the same, rose-colored whatever tint your deal is, but like you have to have other people's different filters to then figure out like what's right. Like let's move it.
I think that's a
let's
big part of
move-
the story
move it
as
forward.
we get into
Yeah.
it.
So Hunter, what about SJ?
Yeah.
Pretty.
So the origin story for Hunter, I'm gonna go back. I'm not gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna go back.
Yeah, go deep.
San Jose, born in San Jose, California, center of the universe, just for everybody to know. And the center of the universe for me, because growing up in the 90s, I am a jock, full stop. There's no going around it. And I think that definitely helped, you know, being chosen, but ultimately me wanting to be at Nike. But I love sports. I love team sports. And I had the San Francisco 49ers, the San Francisco Giants, and my Dubs. I love all the hate the Dubs get right now because they were terrible for you. I'm run TMC vibe. Like, that was my world, going to the Coliseum. I feel so privileged to be able to have experiences like going to see the Warriors at the Coliseum. My parents had Niner tickets for many, many years, and being able to go to Candlestick in Bayview, Hunters Point. Like, I don't know if anybody else knows about that. Like, that was an experience, and I'll never forget it. So honestly, I do believe that I was destined to be working at Nike at a young age. And the reason why, I didn't even think about this story until now. Again, I'm a kid of the 80s, a teenager in the 90s. Thank God I was a teenager and really had those moments in the 90s, very much like Darren, about music, the illest music, the best, right?
Hell yeah.
But in 5th grade, I believe, the AJ4. I've had a couple Jordans before that. I had the Jordan 1, because again, skateboarding, Bones Brigade, shout out Lance and Mickey and everybody who wore the AJ1 back in the day. But I had the AJ1, at Sky Jordan on my Mongoose and then on a Alva board. But when the AJ4 came out, I needed those shoes. I remember I was like, I'm gonna buy these shoes. And I think it was like the first birthday that I had where I asked all my family members, just give me cash.
Just to pull it in.
Because they were a grip, right?
Yeah.
Mom and Dad weren't gonna pay 100, whatever it was. So I asked for cash, bought the AJ4s at Famous Footwear or something like that. I don't know, Famous Feet or something like that in San Jose. I knew that those shoes were special, and I'm not gonna go into Jordan greatness because it is real to me, but those shoes were a status symbol. They made me feel different. Again, I thought I jumped higher, but I honestly knew I was fucking cool when I had these shoes on. I had the breads, 100%, the wings, the whole night. Like, again, they were it. Went to school. I remember I put them in my backpack because I didn't want to get them wet. I mean, again, all same here, I guess. Everybody knows me, I'm stupid like that. But I went to school, and the reason I brought them to school is because we wanted it was like public speaking. I think I was in 5th grade, maybe 4th, I don't know. And we had to talk about something that we cared about, was very, very important to us. And they didn't want us to bring something expensive for that, but I didn't listen to that.
And you
so
want
I brought,
to talk about your mom?
Right, they wanted to bring bring a picture or something. Brought these breads. Remember, I pulled that thing out. I was talking about it, like, straight up. I was talking about it, like, again, as I was a footwear PLM. I don't know what a footwear PLM is when I'm talking about this shoe.
Right.
And, going over it's like maybe 5 minutes, probably as long as I'm talking right now. And what happened after was super funny, but this girl that was in my class, I remember her telling either me or somebody basically she said, I wish I was that shoe. Like, saying like the way that I loved it. And again, I'm just saying I'm a really good PLM. Might have that in my repertoire. But it was funny. And I was kind of like bugged out, but I was like, all right. And that was a moment where, like, again, I knew that I liked the shoe, and it meant something more to me than just a pair of shoes.
Yeah.
But also, living in San Jose, California, parents, hardworking, dad's a carpenter, like mom, dental assistant, or forever. Again, the means and to be able to have something like that, I took care of it. I cleaned it. Like, it mattered to me. And so it was really special. So you fast forward that moment where I'm like, okay, let's shoot. I have my aunt, my mom's aunt, she would babysit me when I was a kid, But this whole shoe thing, they've seen it all, like kangaroos, Jordans, then it started to be getting in middle school. I was wearing the Bo Jacksons, cross trainers. Like, it started to become a thing.
Yeah.
And I remember my mom's aunt saying, you're gonna, like, what was the homegirl with Filipino, something Marcus? Oh my God. Anyway, they're like, you have more shoes than that woman who has hella shoes.
Imelda Marcos?
Imelda Marcos, that's my bad. and my mom's aunt said, you should work for a shoe company, or you should do shoes or something like that. And that was like maybe middle school. And then I was like, all right.
If you talk about like your love for footwear and shoes, I was that kid too, Hunter. I would always look at family footwear stores and skate shoes just so people were like, yo, where'd you get those? And I wouldn't tell them where I got them because they would go get them.
Yep.
But so this whole idea of like, I wish there were some shoes that I liked. And this isn't about me, like, oh, I want to design for myself. But knowing the culture that we came from and how critical I was for like walking in and surveying a wall of stuff and being, no. Or, oh, that. So there was a big part of that. So here comes Nike. So Nike was like, oh, we're doing skateboarding, which is like, you're referring to it as like, oh, we're doing skateboarding. They were friends of mine who were in footwear. At the time, I was like still in apparel, doing brand projects as like other assignments.
This is like mid to late 90s.
And so I was doing stretch because I came from working on product brand and other. And so I was kind of like not that satisfied as a creative to just be like, so Nike's like, here's your lane, please stay in the lane. I'm like, I'm not staying in the lane. So the reason why I talk about it is like, I was plenty busy trying to take advantage of opportunities that were being presented around me
You were still there.
that weren't apparel, but I was like, I'm trying to get to footwear.
Right.
Because at the time, apparel was this lesser, like you wanted, footwear made it look easy, apparel was, it kind of struggled.
It was always a challenge for Nike.
It was always a
Apparel for
challenge.
a while. But back to that era and what was happening,
Yeah.
to connect the dots from like what was happening, cross training and tennis and
Yeah.
all of that stuff. Nike was doing really, really well. And I think as much as we all kind of, everyone hates on like that chode era. I don't know what else we can call it, but the chode era sounds good.
It's a verb.
It was
to be
an
chode.
effort. I think it was the first signal, if you were really paying attention, to where I think even Nike at some point saw like this culture coming up and this like new consumer, quote unquote, with skateboarding and surfing and snowboarding, but skateboarding specifically. Culturally, it was happening, right? Like, and they at least tried.
Yeah.
They did not do it right.
So is this where Savier comes in with you? Like at similar time, just after?
No, this was that. 'Cause you're talking 96, like when Bam and those Remy.
The
Lincoln,
only
you were-
thing,
Was that
the only
2000?
thing that was rad that came out of the chode
It
era,
was 2000.
my opinion,
Yeah.
was the ads that I think Wyden did.
What if you
Yeah,
treated
right.
skateboarder or what
Yeah.
if you treated skateboarders?
Those
That
ads
was
still,
98.
Yeah.
athletes like skateboarders.
Yeah.
98.
I mean,
but no one gave a shit
For-
about those shoes, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be honest, again, going from, let's call it, I stopped wearing Nikes, Air Pennies, Penny One. Because I remember I bought that thing again, high school, stopped wearing it. And it was only half cabs, Sal 23s, when DC came around and whatever.
If you had a pair of Nikes, back
whatever.
then, you didn't skate. in them.
Well, again, that goes back to those were just, again, for us in the Bay Area, that was status. So like the Air Max 95s, like whatever, like those things, yeah, they were, you grab a pair. And again, I maybe got an Air Penny, but the point I'm making here is, dude, that didn't pay attention to that at all.
No.
No one, like, again, in our, no one paid attention to that at
Missed
all.
the mark.
You would see it, and I saw the swoosh on the, in 401s when you would see the vert in San Diego.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
YMCA.
Yeah, YMCA, and you would see the Nike logo. I'm sure Kevin has history on very specifics on that.
Yeah.
But like, whatever that was going on, that did not cut through anything that we were doing.
When did you start skating?
That's, dude, 85? Like, Bones Brigade, Video 2, you know what I mean? Like, I can go deep, dog, because it's like San Jose, California. Do you know who was born and raised in San Jose, California in the Bones Brigade? Steve Caballero,
Oh, sick.
Ray Barbie.
I didn't know where they were
Ray
from.
Barbie was,
Ray Barbie, I know.
he lived like a stone's throw from where we grew up skating. I would see the Alva team sessioning like because they were in town for a signing. Being in California, at least in the Bay Area, and again, I get dissed all the time because I'm a Valley kid, right? San Francisco's over,
17.
you know. Oh, that's Santa Cruz, but like then you got SF.
Dude, you can't afford it.
I'm
You
100%.
can't afford it.
100%. That's why I diss. I can't be there. I can't afford it. But San Francisco and being in San Jose, like San Jose is like ramp dudes, you know what I mean? But I think the sports connection and my, you know, honestly, I didn't trip on like loving sports, being a jock, but also being a skateboarder. There was a moment where I really took a decision like, now this is what I am and who I am. And I would probably say that was like 8th grade going into high school.
Right.
Because again, went to the first Lollapalooza, dude, I was bugging out, like just seeing, and it just, again, Planet Earth jeans, like that was just who that's who I identified with, this is what I want to be with.
The cool thing too, dude, if I may,
Yeah.
is if you think about what Michael shared and what I shared, even though we all came from different places and what was happening at that time, whether it was like what was happening in surf in like
in
the
Long
late
Beach
80s.
was Black Flag, TSOL, like
Yeah.
the punk rock parties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People jumping off roofs and stuff.
Yeah.
But what was happening then, music and culturally and surf to then skate, whether it was in New York City or what was going on in Northern California, like there was so much rad shit that was happening.
It
that
was,
skateboarding was changing.
I would say,
Fashion
again,
changed.
pop culture, again, in the 90s, mid to late 90s, again, I'm just very thankful that my parents got busy, you know, back in, so I was 13, 14 during these times. But like, it was just magical. And I'm glad I was like, didn't understand that, but it was insane to be able to, again, be in the Bay Area during that time. But also, really, it was this, everything that was happening, just to your point, around music, culture, sport, style, straight up. I knew, at a young age, I knew like, there was a style, there was something that I had to pay attention to it. And I needed to have that, I didn't know what discerning meant, but I knew what I liked and what I didn't.
No doubt.
And so, I think the curiosity and me being interested in different things and wanting to be exposed to different cultures, music, this and that, that's what really pushed me to like, all right, Hunt, you got to go do something else. And so in 2000, excuse me, I was like working 3 jobs. It was wild. I was working at Gordon Beers, shout out to all of my homies there. And then Apple Computers. And then I was going to school. So that was my other job, right? But here's the thing I wanted to say, like around, towards the beginning of 2000s, is that all of my homies that I was hanging out with were all my skater friends. Like that was it. And Lorenzo Perez in particular, which you guys know.
LP.
LZ.
LZ, sorry.
He is the reason why, again, discerning and understanding what is cool, what is I credit a lot to him and his guidance, just like you were talking about, Michael, because man, he put us onto everything, drum and bass, like Goldie, like it was insane, like all this stuff. This had to be like 95, 96, 97, and yeah, like those years were so important to me because that's where my identity, I think, started to form. And going back to like 2000, I felt like I was just spinning because money, the situation in the Bay Area, trying to rent, I was renting a room or I was paying a part of a room that I wasn't even living in mostly. It was $1,000 in like 2000, right?
Wow.
And that's insane. And we could, you know, as skaters, you're just like, that's weird. There was awesome, you know, skate houses, San Fernando House, this and that. But I just knew, like, there's something I got to do and push myself forward. And so I saw these ads that were being done here in Portland, Oregon. And it was this brand called Savier. The ads that I really got psyched about and really just motivated me to, again, be curious, investigate more, were these ads that John Humphrey shot down by Southeast Maine underneath the freeways there. And it was Brad looking like Brad. It was like
Brad who?
Staba.
Is that how you say his name?
Yeah. And there was a shoe flying over his head, and you can kind of make out the shoe. It was a Prada shoe. And then there was this like, or was it a skateboard? No, he had Prada shoes on. And it was this weird old skateboard going over his
I
head.
remember.
And I was like, what the hell is this, right?
Yeah.
And again, Humphreys and Kyle Reynolds and those guys creating some mystique about that. It was everything that I just talked about, like going into those late 90s or into 2000, I was like, this is what I'm about. Like I love
definitely
skateboarding.
had a look that was kind of broke the mold because like at the time DC.
Yeah.
So I actually had a lot of appreciation for DC's like visual language. Like if you think about like what they built
Yep.
and the consistency of it.
Yeah.
Like it was bold. It knew what it was. And like, and then so Savier was like, I wouldn't say art, but it felt closer to what my.
What do you call this then, Michael? Like it is forward design. It is.
Well,
it is
like
artistic.
I think I mean part of it is like there's a lot of like the advertising just did,
Yeah.
but there was restraint, but it was like letting the photo tell the story.
Yes.
And it didn't require a bunch of other things,
100%.
right? Because a lot of times, if it's an agency, they're going to be like, features and benefits, right? So it's like, and then how big is that type?
Right.
And I'm like 9 points, but then the agency's like 30 points. So it's just a different mentality where you're like the hierarchy of design. It's like skateboarding is like unique. You want to look like what shoes is Brad wearing?
Right.
Like, oh, where is that? Oh, that's Portland. Oh, it's at night. It just had a vibe to it.
Right.
So anyway.
And that's what brought you up here to Portland.
That's what brought me here to Portland, was those ads you're talking about,
Yep.
creating mystique and me being
And
curious.
who the team was is like Brian
Yeah, I mean,
Anderson and
Brian and
Stefan,
Brad at that time. I
Brad.
think that was Brian was coming off 2 major he was on Action and he got 2 major European contest wins. At that time was massive. I sent an email to the president of Savier because I saw those ads, heard a little bit about it. Again, this is early internet days. We had to really do some investigating, right? So I found out who the president was. Paul Fidrich, shot him an email by the grace of whatever, the grace of God. I got an email back. Fidrich was like, hey, this is pretty interesting. Tell me a little bit more. And again, not a lot about skateboarding, but interested in my tech experience. And he's like, why don't you come up for just check out the
warehouse?
Yeah, just check out what we got going on, because that was the big piece from him. He wanted to ensure that people saw this is a startup. What was really cool about that experience is that I left the Bay Area when a lot of other friends that weren't skaters and some skaters were going into these tech roles during the tech boom, and did have that experience of startups. I look at my experience with Savier, and then definitely what we're talking about today. This is my startup experience, and I think that is one. I'm very grateful. We're insanely lucky to have that have happened. To start a skateboard brand, startup brand within the Nike engine, but also it ruined a lot of stuff for us as for the future, because that is a lightning in a bottle, and it will never happen again. And you want to try to recreate it, but that was
good luck.
That was something that I've learned and realized. Wow, it was very, very special. So, what came to Savier.
So then it's like 2001, 2002, right? Sandy and Mark are seeing like a more potential in skateboarding as like it's bigger than a sport, right? It's like a cultural thing. And how do I build this team of people like yourselves to come in and pour your hearts in and build the right product, right? The right people, the right times. And Nike Skateboarding is born.
Yeah.
Nike skateboarding was around when Savier was going, right, Darren?
Yeah. So I think one thing, and again, there's probably many versions of this story, but Sandy and Mark. We have to remind everyone that like Sandy had just before Nike SB started, the whole Nike soccer thing globally.
Right.
Like Nike was not relevant in soccer, in the 90s or prior. It was dominated by Adidas. But Sandy, for years, like that was on top of so many other things that Sandy did in his career. But like he had just come off of that, like getting Nike into soccer and all the football clubs and all of that stuff. When SB started, Savier was still around. The Chode era was like in our rearview mirror.
Yeah.
To your point, I don't think we really even paid attention to it. Really, it was just like, oh, that was like a blip that happened. But Savier was happening, and there was no connection to what we were starting to do.
Those two were together in there.
There was no connection to what we were starting to do, what we were doing at SB, and what was happening in Savier.
Yeah.
At all. It was church and state. It was just like,
Yeah.
whatever.
Let's snapshot, right? Sandy, you guys are gravitating towards Sandy, internal folk, hiring the right folk. The internal crew is kind of aligning and building under Sandy and Mark's leadership. But again, you were often misunderstood behind the Burm, right? As this,
Beyond, did you
misfit
say
toy.
inside the Burm?
Inside.
Yeah.
Inside the Burm.
Yeah.
Outside the Burm, you're creating and building a brand, and proving, right, to the world that you can fucking do this. Inside, you're doing the same, but seen as, a little different than what was happening. There's no gates, there's no dates, right? You're not on the global plan process, and were you under the microscope from the big brand, and did you have these big budgets like a Jordan brand, or you were scrappy and aligned as a team to build something and create this foundation for the future?
I mean, looking back on it now, to Hunter's earlier point of like a startup, like we were a startup in the beginning. We had amazing leadership with Sandy, and he had so much trust in us. And I think when we all connected, we didn't know each other at all. We all came from different places, different parts of the world, the country, wherever, different backgrounds, etc. But when we all came together, we all had like a shared understanding of like, hey man, this is on us. Like, and we all had our strengths, and we understood that. And it happened, to your point earlier, of like, people came from internal that either had previous experience, that understood the space, the culture, and then we started pulling external people in as a whole. But
Who was that crew?
the beginning crew, and Michael can
Yeah,
speak to it better than I can, but Sandy, Dan, Marcus Taiui, who deserves a lot of credit when it comes to footwear and storytelling and all of that. He taught us a lot. Like John Martin, Michael, and that was the crew in the beginning. And then, Vince Salazar.
Yeah.
He was like one of the first sales guys. But
Yeah.
everyone that I just mentioned were already existing Nike employees
Right.
that came over, but they understood the space.
Yeah.
And then myself and Kevin, Kevin came from like media magazine background. I came from New York and Zoo. We came in,
Yeah.
and then kind of
Yeah.
things happened from there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so the other ones, like this, from a skate team perspective, it's like when I would go down to LA and meet with a retailer, they'd be like, dude, those ads, that campaign or whatever, like it was cutting through the noise. And then it was kind of shutting people up who were like trying to figure like the first reason to like say something kind of negative about the program. When it was first starting, it's too easy because I would go to a party here in Portland and someone would be like, how come you didn't sign Mariano?
Right.
Like, what do you, and like, I almost got in a bar fight one night because I was like, trying to stand behind like, no, dude, we're not trying to spend all the money like this week. Just slow down. But I was proud of like Richie Mulder. They all brought something, Reese Forbes, Gino, all the people we work with, Todd Jordan in the beginning. I mean, this is a Todd Jordan photo at the factory with Richie on the line. I'm sure I'm missing something, but this idea of, it wasn't about like spending and quickly assembling a team that would just shut people up, like having people break contracts and just jumping around, right? Because that's a bad vibe, like from an industry perspective, is like, you guys are kind of coming in hot and you're flexing and you got all the Nike money. But in saying that, another Sandy thing, and you could say Dan Burris and collectively us was what Nike brought was like, treat them as athletes as Nike would treat a Nike athlete.
Sandy said treat them as world-class athletes.
Treat them as world-class athletes.
'cause that's
and,
what
and
Nike
part of
is.
that is like, the specialness that from, what I got to come in and do every day, even like this first year of the Dunk 85, piece is like, the little specialness of like the metallic, the little things that like, this kind of stuff that was like, the leave behinds and things that were like, the 4-hole pattern in this guy, but the things that made it special and wasn't following in the footsteps of brands that were categorizing their teams. They weren't strength through diversity. They were trying to develop the look and feel of the brand and the personalities of the skaters that rode for them. That they were like, I remember at the time, like I was like, this is pretty amazing, but like we're going to try to float above it, not because we're better, but we're trying to float above it to represent collectively what a lot of different types of skaters could fit in and still ride for SB. So like if it was a Hesh kid or like, you know, like there's like, you know, Jamie Thomas and Zero and like some of my favorite skaters. And then of course Eric Costin.
Jamie Thomas, your favorite skater?
No, I'm not saying James. Some of
joking, I'm
like
joking, I'm joking.
the
I got
Banter.
it. I got
yeah,
it.
banter.
I got
Yeah,
it.
no, not at all. But
You get
but
sensitive
from a
sometimes, but
for-
I got it.
yeah,
Yeah.
but dude, from a guy who doesn't
100%.
back down.
The chief did
The chief was called the chief for a
Yeah.
reason, and people would compare me like, dude, he's kind of like hard, difficult to deal with. Because like when you build a brand, you can't.
Yeah, you can't
You don't want
compromise all the time.
You know,
To that point
internally-
though, to that point, like Michael's been Michael, and there's been a ton of respect for not only what Michael has done, but what Michael shared and taught us, and you know everything as a whole. But there was respect at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If you go back to the whole Sandy thing and Michael's skill set with the catalogs, the imagery, etc., there was respect, there was empowerment, the loyalty, the understanding that we had of loyalty that we all shared was, I think, a red thread through the whole thing. But it wasn't just us internally, it went down to the team. It even, to a certain degree, is like, got down to like the shops we did business with.
And it had to be, right?
It had to be.
Like, and again, I don't know if this is the transition where, again, we talk about teams and then
It's
it
great.
starts
You know,
radiating out.
You guys, so it pretty much answered my next question of like, what's the juice? That was the juice. Like, I'd
Mike,
love
let me
to
see
see
that
that on
postcard, the postcard
you know,
ones.
This one.
Hunter, from
Yeah.
your perspective, like what was going to set Nike skateboarding
Yeah.
apart from everyone else?
Yeah, and
what was
again,
it?
so I was, I don't think we officially said, but I was I was Nike SB, but Nike Skateboarding,
Yeah.
team manager for the first 7 years of when I came over from after Savier, which I think at the end I was a PLM over there, apparel. But and then I transitioned into I would say naturally, brand management, brand director. So I was in Nike SB for 14 years. Again, my adult life, a lot of my first half of my adult life. And I did not put this first team together, right? As we were all
Yeah, I mean,
gravitating.
it's a good subject. It's we could
Yeah.
probably have an entire
Let me
podcast.
let me
just-
tell us.
Yeah, go for it.
Just joking. As we are gravitating and we're needing to be a part of SB, right? This team here, which was already established and put in, and this goes all credit due to the commitment and relationships. Again, Sandy, Vince Salazar with Robbie Jeffers, but let's go. Darren, you guys can talk more about the Stussy, Supreme, New York, LA. Like again, there is strategy put together when this team was formed. But Robbie Jeffers, from what my understanding, is the one that made the connection and contact with the majority. I would say probably the ones that had the Stussy affiliation, and whether it was Zoo York with Supa and Todd Jordan. That might have been, again, some of the relationships that you've been a part of, Sandy was a part of when those initial, like, hey, we're trying to do this thing. But these five original five, Gino, Supa, Todd Jordan, Reese Forbes, and Richie, these are the pioneers. And again, and as much as we, there was a big decision for me to make, like, I'm going to go to Nike and try to do skateboarding. This credit goes a ton to these five because they did not give a fuck. They're like, yeah, I'm gonna go do this, and they all had their own very specific reasons to do that. But as you go ahead and think about them, Todd, Supa, Reese, Gino, and like style. They look good on a skateboard. Did they do all the crazy stuff? Nah, it didn't matter because the confidence and style of how they did what they did on a skateboard and where they did it. These guys, like I'm so privileged and proud that I was able to have I still have a relationship with Gino Iannucci. I asked him, I was like, dude, in that, the one-on-one videos and, when you're wearing this and that, like, did you just throw something on? And he goes, no, that's no, dude, that's calculated. I'm like thinking about what this is. Yeah. And that's, again, some people like that of skateboarding, some people don't. Yeah. Personally, I loved it. Yeah. And that's styles. That's what, again, where Nike skateboarding, I believe, really started taking shape and form from all the different iterations and attempts. Style, emotion, and then performance, right? These five dudes, they could put on it. Reese Forbes in an EQ, are you kidding me? looked ill. Like he just looked
Yeah,
awesome.
it made it work.
Richie in the first dunk. So I don't want to. I would be remiss if I did not say that these 5 people, again, are the foundation of being able to have this be authentic, real, but really, I'll straight up say it, fucking cool.
Yeah.
And then to be able to build upon that as a team manager, one, scary as heck, because Kevin, the reps, right? There's ways to build skateboarding teams, and I'm talking about skaters, not the brand marketing and all the suit and tie stuff.
Internal
I'm talking
stuff,
about in the streets, doing it, are going to feed the insights, right? To make all the cool stuff. There's ways to go about it. Michael said a little bit like, we weren't going to be the ones that go and purchase and buy out everybody, this and that. And so there was some strategy behind it, but we wanted to sustain how cool of the vibe and the image. And then we also, again, we wanted to sustain a little bit of what real skateboarding, what I'm sure it would same in snowboarding and surfing, but of a team and what that feels like. And then if you go back and think about what teams were doing shit, Baker again today is still one of the best teams ever. Baker was driving an image and a look and a feel, and that wasn't Nike, right? SB at the time.
Or if it was Girl Chocolate and
Girl
like
Chocolate, I mean,
the level
yeah.
of their content
Yep,
and the filmmaking was
And so it was really important for myself. Again, I think Darren, you were a huge part of Nick Halkias, Grant Taylor, right? Rob Cece in the middle.
Yeah, man.
It was really important for us to, as a team manager, but let's call it a sports marketing strategy. We need to be connected with our rep force and our reps. So again, because you got Scotty and everybody else that was part of it, and they're still doing it today. They are the scouts. They are connected. They are connected to that bedrock of what is important within skateboarding. So let's not forget. It's Nike and we're doing these things, but we now have to show commitment, stay committed, and then try to create some distinction that's not so arrogant because everybody's like, oh, you're Nike, you're going to do this and that. And so we came up with this strategy. I don't want to call it strategy. We just came to like, what is a filter, right?
Yeah, filter.
Filter is this. It's strength through diversity. Again, we want to have eclectic mixes of this and that, but you know what? The first and foremost, if you're going to be in the van and you're a goof, it's going to be a hard one, right? And so I won't. If you want me to go in the story, we could do it at some point. But like, I also had to prove that I was not a kook. Maybe, I'm sure some people would disagree, but like, I had to go on a trip and show and connect with the riders and also be productive before I got the job, which was really hectic. But you kind of we had to do.
What was it, like a tour?
Okay, so I'll go into the story. So as I was leaving Savier, committed in my mind, I'm going to leave Savier because again, I saw it going into a different direction. Kevin and Imamur and I got connected because of the Savier warehouse and the skate ramp and this and that. Molly Kwan, is that?
Yeah.
Molly Kwan. Shout out Molly, she's epic. Molly would come and skate, a few other people at Savier. And Molly's like, hey, can I bring my buddy Kevin? He's just came up from LA. Sure. Kevin comes up, we're skating around, and what am I skating in? As I'm a Savier employee, I'm wearing the maroon dunks because this is what, again, Gino, I'm gonna wear them. That's what, and I got them over at Poker Face over.
You bought them?
Yeah. And so I'm wearing these dunks, and Kevin goes, dude, you like those? I'm like, yeah. I mean, what are you talking? Yeah, they're ill. We're skating this Savier Park, and then so he even tell me what he was doing this and that. We kept skating together. And then finally he's like, yeah, dude, I'm working over at SB. And I'm like, what? And it just freaked me out. So this had a matter of like a month or so. And so, like I said, there was a few things going to happen at Savier that I could see it. A lot of the riders were going to move on. And I was like, yep, if they're gone, I'm gone. Because that's who I'm aligning myself with, the skateboarders. And so Kevin said, why don't you interview for the team manager role? And I'm like, what? Sick, right? Go and interview. Went to Mia Hamm. I don't think you were there on campus quite yet. Michael, you were there. A few others. Again, I was freaking out. I mean, again, I still remember like shaking, so nervous. You're gonna meet with Sandy, Dan, a few others, Footwear and Apparel. John Martin was there, and Kevin. And Kevin was very, serious. and very focused. And he did coach me. Again, you're dealing with some really big names.
Yeah.
So I go to the interview, and I'm shaking, and I probably didn't do very well, but again, got through the interview. And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, this would be amazing if I could do this. This is where it gets a little cloudy, but I'm just going to go with it. I'm pretty sure Kevin told me, you're not getting the job. And again, I remember driving, like, this isn't, okay, I'm not going to get the job. I wanted to cry. I remember driving, and it was raining. I'm like, I'm going to have to. I'm going
Got
to.
sad? Did you get
Yeah,
sad?
because I was already in my
some
mind.
Morrissey?
Get Morrissey blasting.
In my mind, I was already convinced that I was going to leave Savier because it's not what. It
wasn't fun.
It's not fun.
It's not funny.
It's not. They weren't focused, and so I was tripping and I was bummed. So I'm like, okay, now I have to commit. I'm quitting now.
Yeah.
So I go with whatever. Something happens, and then like a week later, Kevin calls and says, "Hey, Hunter, yeah, what's up, man? Dude, can you, not even that this is a tryout, we're gonna see how it goes. Can you go to France with Robbie Jeffers, John Humphreys, and
Those dudes?
Todd Jordan, Gino Iannucci, Danny Supa, and 2 new riders that Kevin, I believe, just put on, Daniel Shimizu and Chet Childress."
Oh, no way.
And I'm like, okay, where? Why? They're in Nice. A couple guys are in Nice. Some guys are going to fly out there. But we want Humphreys. I kind of feel like Kevin was doing
I
it
thought
so
they
he can
came
get.
on after. That's when they came on.
Yeah, right then.
That's cool.
So I feel like Kevin was trying to get Humphreys to shoot some stuff, but Robbie was still in the mix.
Yeah, because Robbie was a photographer.
So
/ Tease, dual.
yeah, again, it'd be great if Kevin could ever tell his side of the story, because I didn't get much of like what is. I was talking to Humphreys, what are we doing? But the approach was that we needed to get, the goal was to get everybody an ad.
Yeah.
And anybody who goes on skate trips, snowboard trip, to get an ad for each person, 5, and this maybe was like a 9-day trip, if that. I knew that was like, and I was never a team manager before. I was someone that Brad, Brian, Stefan, Tim, and Rattrey all got along with, and Jose Rojo. Like, we all got along. But I had my shit together a little bit, And so I was like, okay. And Robbie, hey brother, like it was just, I didn't really know what was going on. So I'm assuming this is what the trial was like. Can you get how put together are you? And how can you bring a team together? So I went out there, and Nice, France, middle of summer, Sandy sent out Todd and Supa to, do you remember, it was there was Futura was out there. It was, I want to say maybe it was it was Cannes, maybe film festival. It was something. It was something next level. All I know, I fly into Nice, France. Todd and Supa are drinking red wine on the on the rocks beach and this and that. And I'm just like, this is next level. I'm coming from Savier, where, yeah, man,
You're building your
everything
office.
is
Yeah, dude, we're doing drywall, bro.
mud and tape, man. Right to this. Flew first class too, business class, excuse me. And I'm like, this is wild. So the goal was to get ads, but also, as I realized as I'm taking the flight back with Todd, Soup, and the team, this is just to see if you can get down. So did we get ads for everybody? I think out of the 6, we got 4. Pretty good.
Yeah, but
And
that's like 2 months worth.
And then it's a backside flip of Gino. It's been everywhere. It's
it's the one blue sky. It's like a boardwalk.
That was like more for internal stuff, but so we got 5.
Yeah.
But so we got the ads, and it was the most insane experience ever, because I got to meet these guys in an environment, again, in Nice, France. I've been there before, which was kind of sick, so I knew a little bit, but got to hear from Robbie what he was doing. And, he's telling me, I'm sticking with, Stussy, brother, we're going to do this. And we are still stay connected. And I got to meet Chet. And I knew very well who Chet, his persona, what he is. Daniel Shimizu, the coolest fucking dude in the world.
Yeah.
And that was like, again, back to the strength through diversity. This was already being created. Like, it was just, there's very different styles. You had someone writing for Foundation, to Zoo York, Chocolate. Reese was at the time, it was starting Rasa Libre, or he was
Michael Leone.
Yeah, it was wild. So you had all this different, but the thing about it is everybody was really cool. I mean, it took Chet a little bit of time to like be cool.
Yeah.
But everybody was super cool. And I remember on the flight back, I will never forget this. Supa, this is where maybe the connection to the other guys that were in potential team manager, being interviewed for it. But Supa goes, I like, in so many words, yeah, dog, you cool. Or like something basically said, I'm gonna vouch for you. I know he said, I'm gonna vouch for you. Like, I got you. Like, you're cool. Yeah, dog.
Right.
Yeah, dog. And I was bugging out because I was like, okay, because fan of Supa well before all this. And then Todd Jordan, who, I don't want to gas him up too much, but like coolest dude, again, on the skateboard, how he dresses and that. And we just vibed and got along. And so as we were flying back, I was like, okay, this might be what's happening. Come home, Kevin don't say a damn word again. But I'm like, no. But because I was sitting in that.
You serious?
Yeah,
Or is he serious?
not immediately. You know what I mean? And then, but the thing that Supa said to me kind of like gave me some confidence. Mm-hmm. And then, sure enough, something after that, they're like, hey, we want to offer you the team management role, which was like unbelievable. But the piece I left out is that I had to tell Savier that I was taking.
You already were wearing.
Well, I was about to leave, right? But I did not put my 2 weeks in yet. So Kevin called me, like, I want to say on a Wednesday. I was left on a Friday. So I made up a lie. I apologize, Paul Fidrich.
You were sad?
I told him, hey, I got this, there was like, and I didn't say someone passed away, I didn't say that. But I was like, oh, my family, we're all, like, they have this trip that we're going to go on, and I got invited last minute, I have to go. And they're like, okay, cool.
That was the biggest bullshit excuse ever.
It was wild, but I felt bad, and dude, so that was like my
definitely
departure.
were young.
Hell yeah. And so that was like my tryout for becoming a team manager. But it was that experience and that thing. And again, the writers created it. It wasn't, Sandy and Robbie.
That was just, that's that part. And then it just kind of kept going and going. I mean, if you think about like SB's image design, whatever, brand management was a shared role, as much as a TM or Kevin from like a media PR standpoint, or Darren, and then all the reps and everybody, but it flowed naturally. Like when someone else came on the team, I wouldn't say it was overly calculated, but it wasn't just like fast and furious. I mean, there was names of people I remember that kept coming up, like that had been winning a lot, like on the contest scene, and we weren't so heavily weighted on that, which I was always appreciative, because I've always, like, from a content creation standpoint in snowboarding and surfing, it's like there's the guys that are film oriented, and then there's guys that are editorial.
We weren't thinking that yet until
and we had a lot of
but
we did have no agency except for a digital agency, Autopod, out of SF, who did our first websites, etc. And then Mark Hegarty, Hega TV, shout out, Hega TV, dude. That there was no one internally at Nike that reviewed any of our advertising. Wow. For years and years and years, if
we
not,
policed ourselves.
There was no.
We approved ourselves.
No one saw any of the ads. Sandy didn't even see them. We saw them.
Yeah, we're like, hey, we're trying to sell shoes.
Yeah, because Kevin would say something. Yeah, and then
at some point,
if Stefan came in and said, I showed him, like, here's a few of the ads that are going out the door right now. He's like, why?
We just wanted to present skateboarding in the right way.
They wanted it to be clean, and they didn't want a bunch of noise, and so we had some good filters in them. Yeah. So to kind of tee up, there was a few things that we wanted to support with some visuals. So there's two campaigns. One is the first sponsor, which kind of is a nice bookend to everything you said about the first 5 dudes. First sponsor was when we weren't SB logo, pre-SB logo. It was the first print ads. I mean, the media buys were done, and it's like, you got to go. Let's just start to go. So Todd Jordan shot a campaign that featured some icons. So they were like my first sponsor, Reese Forbes, memories of his first.
It was Reese and Chris Hall, Supa and
Vinny
Ponte, and
Todd and his brother Jeremy.
Up in Albany, they
and
so
Richie and his brother and his father. Excuse me.
Super pumped if you could show the visuals for those.
Gino and his family.
Yep.
And then the second one was Custom Series, which tribute to a great collaboration with John Humphreys and team to do those build outs and the motion commercials shorts were just as like eye candy as the print ads. I'm to this day can't believe that we produced this stuff very, very early on within the brand, but it paid dividends with a lot of retailers and stuff. Of just like, man, if this visually stunning, not because I did it, had anything to do with it, but man, John Humphreys and I, we worked so well. I mean, the stuff kind of just came together. We'd fly Gino in. They had to trust us.
That was one of my favorite campaigns.
It's
great.
and
Still
so
today.
so that's great. And I think part of that is just like then the treadmill of delivering print ad after print ad after print ad.
Gnarly.
And it's not to say like, oh, poor us. We had a lot of opportunities, but as each team dude came in, the bar was like, now you need to do, a Paul Rodriguez set the bar signature, first signature athlete. He's a brand athlete. So he's bubbling up the top with the top of the food chain athletes. I had the privilege of doing his first signature shoe and work with him, do his first ads. I mean, we did the Chateau Marmont first design review with P-Rod. It's legendary, John Martin, Hunter, and I. It's like there's no other people there. It's just, we went in. He had probably the better of the relationship, right? We're developing a relationship with Paul. Paul was what?
It's mi gente, dog.
15. Paul was like 15 or something.
Nah, he's 84, so he was already 18.
He was 8.
Yeah.
He looked like he was 16.
19. Yeah.
But and Paul's still with Nike SB to this day, and he is they just released the 20th anniversary of the P-Rod 1, which is amazing. It's a testament to not only Paul and his career, but the brand. And where I'm going with that is just like as you mentioned other team writers that came on, a lot of it was the natural because they had checked boxes in from a retailer's perspective or sales rep, because they kind of naturally bubbled up through our team, internal team, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, when we signed Eric, I mean, I don't want to play that too hard, but like when we signed, I mean, he's like someone I looked up to, even though I'm a lot older than him. So to work with Paul, work with Eric, to see Paul and Eric skate on the same team, I mean, it's like magic.
Yeah, I think to help bring that one around is that one, I want to say too, like after this initial 5, it was really important to, again, as I said about the rep force and again, making that connection. If we didn't have a great, strong relationship, we're doing a disservice to skateboarding in this community by supporting the streets and supporting the local kids. Like that's where the Ginos and the Todds
or a Uyghur,
or Uyghur. And so where I wanted to say was because I want to make sure, I feel like without even thinking about it, Kevin and I made sure that we stayed committed. And it wasn't like just to be different. It wasn't like that's why we wanted a distinction. It was to make sure that we were elevating and supporting the East. And again, became key cities, this and that. But like we are like, no, we got to make sure. We know California. We got it. We understand. Zero. You just said achieve that. But this was established. This is style focused. Yeah. This is again.
Yeah, but they were too. But it was like dirty. It's like,
the
that's what skateboarding is like. No, it's.
But strategically, Michael, we made sure that Darren and his connections, whether it's Zoo and then it turned to vehicle. Not vehicle, but it turned to Todd and those guys rode for I forget what it was. My bad. But they rode for those teams. And we're like, great. I'm glad that you're writing for that now. When they all kind of bounced from Zoo York and this and that. But we made sure that the East in particular got shine. That's why Dan Murphy got on the team. It was like Dan was in EST or something because RB rode.
RB.
But then where I wanted to bring it together, where we also understood like you have to think about the youth. And again, South, the East, Nick Halkias and Grant Taylor, the best skateboarder that's ever lived, straight up. Yep. There's no other conversation. That relationship wouldn't have worked if it wasn't for a great relationship with Darren, Nick, Stratosphere,
Thomas
Taylor, rest in peace. Like it would have never worked. Yeah.
Skate park at Tampa too.
And honestly, then you want to get we can get details. Everything that we've done internally and all this stuff. But man, if we did not have the partnerships and the relationships that we had,
it was very important
with the hard goods company, Alien Workshop, right? That was huge when Grant was there. He was going to go to DC, but Thomas, because of the trust of you, but Nick being in there, Nick saying, "I got you. We're going to do this, and trust us."
Yeah.
It's a
And
great
that-
segue.
That's amazing. And then so strength of adversity,
Yeah.
that kind of filter, it kind of evolved, for certain evolved, but we really paid attention to that elevation by association.
Love it. It's a
And
great,
that's what
really
we
good
did
segue.
for them and they did for us.
100%.
Into the next. So I'm
Is this
feel-
going to be the fun part?
No, I'm feeling good. Like you got, I'm feeling the special sauce from a brand perspective,
Okay.
design perspective, special sauce from marketing and sports marketing, but it holds true to sales, right? Across each one of these functions, like very interesting, unique sales approach from how we approach the retailers, partnered with the retailers at a really deep level, and then a very curated rep force. And they weren't just sales reps, right? They were also part of the brand with input and looking at team riders.
Yeah.
And scouting.
Scouting,
Yeah, it was really important. Like
It was. Yeah, I mean, I think when, in the very beginning, I remember Vince Salazar, right, was the West Coast rep. I was the East Coast rep. Literally the first like 2 seasons, like a sample bag when you would go see stores, it was a backpack. Like, and I would get in a plane and I'd show up and, and to be honest with you, it was a lot. I knew a lot of the stores on the East Coast just because of my previous work with Zoo and what have you. But a lot of people told us to fuck off. They were like, nope. And there's people that we knew. And then, people that I knew and did business with previously. And I mean, I'm trying to be funny, not fuck off, but they were just like, nah, man, we're good. Because they didn't need us. Like they didn't. I think that's important to call out at this point in in
They
the
didn't want Nike.
industry.
They're like, I don't want
they didn't need it. They had everything else. But then there were the few that were like, no, we get it.
We're about it.
And there were only like before, Vince had set up a couple of accounts before I got on. Specifically on the East Coast I could speak to was Concepts in Boston, Supreme, and I think that was pretty much it, right? And the guys at Concepts, they understood sneaker culture, and they had a Nike account already, and they had a little skate thing in the back, and they were a part of the Boston scene back then. Credit to John Roy and Spongy.
Yes.
And obviously Supreme being Supreme then, those were the only 2 accounts. And like we would go around and try and open up accounts. They'd be like, nope, we're good. But then there were a few that were good, like the guy, Tim and Malcolm from Pit Crew.
Yeah.
They deserve credit because they were just like, yep. And Chris Hall, Reese, et cetera, they kind of were getting a lot from him of just sneaker culture because Chris Hall
Chris
is
and Steve at NJ.
yeah, like those guys. So there were a few other shops that kind of got on board. I'm saying all that. The line was really small. People told us shoes weren't selling. Like it was so new, right? And we were trying to, internally, we were doing all this amazing stuff, but we were trying to get shoes placed and get shoes to sell. And like, I remember the denim dunks. This is before we hired anybody. Else. Rob Sissy and Nick Halkias were the next 2 dudes that came on. They weren't even on yet. But we shipped the denim dunks that Reese did. And I remember them, I forgot what the allocation I had for the East Coast. It was maybe, I don't know, 100 pairs or small.
144.
Yeah, so it was small. But I remember I sent some to Tim and Malcolm at Pit Crew. And they put them up. And I remember getting a phone call from Tim. And he was like, hey, man, these things ain't selling. Like, what do you want me to do with?
Which is ridiculous if you think about it.
I mean, and
Yeah.
we
We were in the
didn't.
skate shop. That was in the skate of skate shops. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like,
and like in Frederick, Maryland.
Yeah, man.
But we didn't take shoes back. We didn't do any of that shit. But I remember telling him then, and I remember I used this and told a lot of people when things didn't sell, specifically dunks. I was like, dude, take them, put them in a black bag, like make sure they're sealed, and put them in a dark, cool place and just let them chill. You'll thank me later. Back then, an invoice for like a 12-pair run of dunks was like a few $100s.
$32.50.
Yeah, 32 or 35.10, I think they were. Anyway, so it wasn't a big invoice, but for them it was, right? But a few of them did that. They can tell the story of what happened afterwards. But so anyway, it was a struggle in the beginning. But then people, all of a sudden, the sneaker thing started to pick up. There were lines, et cetera. We were like, shit, more shops were calling. It was like, man, we need help. That's when Rob Sissy, who his clothing company that he shut down was Supernatural. and he was a staple within the Minneapolis Midwest kind of skate scene. But he went and interviewed Nike. This dude showed up. This is how young we were, naive, and kind of didn't know. But like Rob understood what Nike was trying to do, and he was like, "I want in," because of everything that Michael and everything that was already happening. He was like, "I want to be a part of it." He showed up to his interview in a fucking suit, like straight up in a suit. Remember, this is kind of the time within Nike that like people stopped wearing suits. I mean, I'm sure in the 90s when you were coming up, a lot of people
I
wearing
never
suits.
wore a suit, bro.
Of course not, but you know what I mean.
Except for Sam Siegel.
Sam Siegel is the man, so he can do whatever the hell he wants. But a lot of people wore suits and have it culturally.
Well, I thought you were gonna like talk about sales of like.
I'm going there in a second.
Yeah, because in the sales in sales that was definitely like public facing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Out in the field.
Always, and there's plenty of stories.
It's pretty buttoned down. Yeah.
Yes. So anyway, but Rob Sissy, back to what Hunter was sharing before, Rob was very, very connected with the kids and the scene there, the shops, Joephobia, the guys from Familia, Uprise, like Rob was like very entrenched in all of that, and he brought a lot of skaters, a lot of flow dudes. He would flow and feed Nick Halkias.
Merrick, Pratt, I mean, the Consolidated crew, which again, it's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
He was
More than sales.
I mean, Todd Bratchford, he was the connection to Todd Bratchford.
100%.
We all know what Todd has done for the brand and storytelling. But yeah, Rob
Sissy carried, and Nick Halkias carried everything that we were doing. The shared understanding when they came on, they understood it.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't a sit down to be like, hey man, it was just a.
Well, I mean, it forced so to interrupt you, so this Donkashin, Padres front office,
Next level.
ASR party. When the catalyst, you kind of this was like a ticket, like a baseball ticket, whatever, right? But when things, the catalyst, I mean, beyond the first riders and getting some traction and things not necessarily selling, we started to kind of hit our stride when Nick and Rob and then you and when that team formulated at those times around trade shows. That was about the time when the industry, from a sales perspective, pre-line showing, forecasting didn't align to real Nike sales calendars.
Yeah.
So it became a brand. It was an extension of the brand. So you would show up and spend a lot of money on a booth and throw these elaborate parties. And we were winning over people. We gave that's when we did the Dunkel. The Dunkels were the
DJ Z-Trip.
Yep.
Who was the live band? There's a YouTube of this.
That's because
this is it's.
Yeah.
So let me come back because I
but
think I'm
it's
gonna
crazy.
get us there. Go ahead.
Because you skipped between the orange box dunks that weren't SBs to the Reese dunk. We talked about the grazed over the EQ and the Earl as complete misses in a lot of standpoints. Now, certain riders did look better in it and gave it a fair shake. I mean, I think Supa really embraced. He looked pretty good in the Earls or whatever. But am I proud of what the Earl and EQ represent? Sandy was pretty pumped that it wasn't Me Too product. We were trying to flex and define our own visual language with product. I was doing my best to try to do these parties, and then collectively, when we gelled as a team, was like a Donkashin party, where it was the industry validating these dudes are kind of onto something here. And the bar, again, not because of me in the bar, but P-Rod's first signature shoe was debuted there.
Yep.
And the custom series ad campaign was there. Tor Drake built all the displays.
I remember.
Right. So a lot of the chemistry is started to really gel. I don't know what it says the date is on.
So what year?
2004.
2004 ASR trade show. And I'll leave it there if you can jump in to
I'm
help.
going to go back to the sales piece for a second.
Yeah.
I wanted to, just so Rob Sissy and Nick Halkias, two very important. Everyone was important. Don't get it twisted. But we're talking about this early days.
Yep.
Nick Halkias was a part of the Southeast skate scene. It was connected, uber fucking nerd when it comes to
the skateboard museum.
just culture. Yeah, the skateboard museum.
Hoarding.
Hoarding. AKA
Hoarding.
expert
Excellent
hoarder, collector. But he came
Shout
from
out
West
to
Side. Yeah, big shout out to Nick. But
Greek.
he came from West Side Skate Shop, and again, just that southeast from Miami to Tampa to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Like he had his hands at, so like there were a lot of dudes that came through, like, and it wasn't just skaters and what have you. It was also the shops that we were doing business with.
Montesi.
Montesi, the best dude ever. If you go back, if we're picking up kind of like the breadcrumbs that we're dropping,
that's what I was trying to do.
the shops that we but the shops that we did business with, it wasn't like, can you sell shoes?
Yeah, totally.
It was more of like, what are you trying to do?
Yep.
Are you supporting the community? Are you hooking up skater? Like, are you a part of this thing? Because that's who we wanted to do business
There's
with.
some shops that would want to take us
Well-
that we're like, yeah, not.
No, we used to say no.
Yeah,
I
well, I mean,
was
that's the
probably
thing.
the most hated dude for a while because I would have to tell a lot of people no, because it wasn't about selling. It wasn't just about selling shoes. Like, it was more of like were they aligned to
It
what
was
we were
growing
trying to do?
within, not around.
Yeah, man. So it was that, and Nick and Rob understood that. It aligned to what we were trying to do, whether it was from a brand perspective, the team perspective. Like, it was all clicking, which
And those retailers were more than just retailers.
100%.
yeah,
right?
man.
Yeah.
100%. And it goes back to what you were saying, Darren, like focus. That's what our goal was. That's why you were focused on the certain shops, and they're like, we wouldn't even talk to so-and-so. And where I think this is what we're talking about as a whole collaboration, it's shops that were going to contribute and truly collaborate with us. And that's what, like,
The shops cared.
Yeah.
Like the ones that we did business with, they cared as much as we did.
Yeah.
If not
If
more.
not more. Yeah.
And it
great.
wasn't about the 12 pairs of shoes they were going to
Yeah.
sell. It was like, it was a little bit like how we were internally. It was like, hey man, we're attached to this thing now. Like, if this doesn't work, it's on us.
Yeah.
They were like, hey man, we're selling your shoes. If this doesn't work, it's on, you know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
there was a collective kind of like, what's
Yeah.
the thing for this podcast? Collective progression?
Progression.
It was an understanding that we had of like, hey man, we got to move this thing
Collective
forward
collection?
together.
Yep.
And I think that, like, we used to, this doesn't happen anymore in Nike. This doesn't probably happen in a lot of companies, but definitely doesn't happen in Nike.
Well,
We
you
used to
talking about
invite-
the sauce?
Well,
This
dude,
is
we
the
used to
sauce.
invite the
I
retailers,
thought there was
dude.
Kool-Aid.
We used to take,
neighborhood, they do it. You know what I mean? Like, neighborhood still does that.
that's fair. I don't know. So I don't
But to the
necessarily mean
point
that.
of
The point of like, dude, these retailers that we do business with, who literally had no filter, we used to fly around the country or the world and go and set up in a city and be like, come on in, tell us what you think of like samples. And like, I mean, some designers quit over time because the feedback would be harsh.
I think it's less than 2.
Oh, but fine, but it still happened. But
there's casualties.
Or wait, it could have
but
been 2.
we did that because it was important for us to hear what they thought.
Listen.
We were listening, and we were trying to get an understanding, because it wasn't necessarily, yes, it was about what they were seeing and what we could adjust and what have you. It was more to help us inform everything else we were doing that was coming down the pipeline. You know what I mean? And like, I mean, dude, we used
Okay,
to.
so let's play the devil's advocate.
You guys
Okay,
can do that.
Okay. You don't want to be part of it?
Nope.
Okay.
You don't have a choice.
So you could argue, so what core skate brand didn't do the same thing, right? But the point of difference is that's how Nike wasn't set up to do that. Like, they valued their retailers. Yes, they did special makeups. That's what John Martin was doing before he came
totally.
over. Like, special makeups with Foot Locker, going out to New York to meet with the Foot Locker corporate. Like, all those things happened. But the idea of help us telling our stories. Okay, so whether or not you got something up your sleeve over here, big guy, like on the dunk storytelling. Okay, so let's make sure we kind of, because I can lose track of what I'm thinking. But this idea of again echoing this is not the way that Nike works. The idea of, like, I had bosses in brand that I had to report to. You were Kevin. Like, there's people in sports marketing. They might be, quote, your bigger boss.
Yeah.
My VP bosses. I think I had at one time 3 bosses.
Yeah.
Sandy was one of them, and Dan was one of them. But then you could argue that the team, the greater collective team, was another one, because you could say, hey, Michael got a little hot or whatever. But this idea of, we built the fence, because there's a game plan process at Nike. You know it because you do directives, you produce global brand directives per season. And those assets that are developed through digital retail, and so there's gates and dates. SB didn't participate to the last, I don't know how many years, with Nike's game plan process. So our game plan process was validated a lot through our internal team, pretty hard on ourselves, or like kind of, you can talk about a design review,
we're product.
whatever. But the idea of the retailer's feedback, the skaters' feedback, and being like completely open to like, they didn't like that at all. Willing to drop it, or then saying, hey, think about all those windows that shops would do. Like they take our story and tell it better than us.
Yeah. The other thing, if you go back just to the sales piece in the shops, because I think it's a very important one that we all understood, and it was core kind of like a principle of like how we operate as a team. We used to go to LA or New York or wherever, or even, Amsterdam, London, where we would bring like shops from like all over like the tri-state area together in a room, and there'd be like 10 different skate shops sitting there. And they wouldn't necessarily be in the same room.
And they didn't
They knew who each other were, but they weren't like,
They didn't know each other.
over the year, we did that we did at least.
Created community amongst the shops.
And for us, it was more of like, hey man, let's hear it. Like it was a little bit of a logistical thing of like, let's just get it all done at once, and having to go around. But over the years of doing that, it created.
It was a happy accident that created camaraderie around
it. It really did, man. And I think I don't necessarily know if they're still doing that to this day. But they should do it. So if anybody's listening, do that again, because I think
it's like
I think the communities need it.
Part pre-line or sales, whatever, / wear test / media days.
Yep.
So you got a lot done, and you flew a lot of people in, and a lot of photos got taken.
Well, let me stop. Like, so Sandy, right?
Yes.
Plucking. You guys are coming out of different categories. You're coming from another skateboard
Actually, I'll
brand.
stop you right there. I don't think it was plucking, man, to be honest. And this
We're not plucking. You guys were gravitating.
Yeah, so that's
right?
different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I wanted to be at Nike.
Yeah.
I wanted to be at Nike.
Yeah.
I wanted to be at the Burm.
Gravitating.
And I think what happened is that whether it's Darren, Michael, again, he just told a story around, he knew what could happen if he's not a part of it.
Or I could see a friend of mine get tapped, and then wish I would have stuck in there, and like I'm not moving my foot.
Yeah.
And Darren, again, consolidate, whatever. I'm just joking, but like, again, this is there's something
Building
there.
the team. We're building
Yeah,
the team.
but
You guys are
I think
attracting.
I think you're right. Gravitated. We went there willingly because we are like, nope, we want to go there. We can do something special. Here's the thing too, because being picked, and Kevin, he wanted to be there. Thank goodness Sandy and them had that conversation, and he was from a media partner, right? Mm-hmm. And then that word, because Sandy's strategic. He knows I need to get the
trans
trust.
world.
Yeah.
I need to get the trust and the confidence of the right people, right? So I think it's a lot of this. We were gravitating, we were getting pulled to this because one, we knew it was going to be special, but we had confidence, whether I knew it or not, whether you knew it or not, that we could actually go and make this work. Because if you remember, man, being in the skateboarding community, I was only in the industry for a year and a half before I bounced from Savier to Nike. Dude, Nike skateboard, like, no, dude, like people.
Yeah, maybe to go back to where Scotty was going before, I think when Sandy was, one thing that Sandy was really good at that I think we all found out over the years, and I think people before us that worked with Sandy knew this already, was like he was really good at building teams. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't about your education or anything. It was more of like, I think where we gravitated together, why he gravitated towards us was the authenticity that we all had and the respect that we had not only for the culture and skateboarding and everything around skateboarding, right? Because it was more than just that, right? There was the music side, the art side, like there was so much a part of it. We maybe weren't the fucking key players in skateboarding, but we had so much respect and an understanding for it that I think even when I started, I thought it was going to be 6 months, right? I still had this like determination that I think we all shared, that we're like, hey man, it's on us now.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we gotta make sure that they don't fuck this up.
Yep.
And that was like, honestly, I think, you know, that was like the driving spirit amongst us. And, you know, as much as like, you know, growing up skating, what have you, like we were all kind of like sneakerheads anyway, a little bit to a degree, because we all had shoes we skated in, and then we had shit that we ran, like we like walked the streets in. But, you know, there was I think there was a lot of respect that we had for skateboarding and for Nike and for Sandy.
Yeah.
That was like, yeah, we can't fuck this up.
Yeah, you're not going to fuck it up.
Yeah.
Coming up next on the CoPro podcast, part 2 of the untold story of Nike skateboarding.
I felt like I was Robin Hood, taking the best of Nike and giving it to skateboarding.
Where when you're in Amsterdam on a Nike trip, you drink a fuckload of Heinekens.
Yeah.
This is my favorite dunk forever.
Tell me the eBay dunk story.
And then there might be people who are watching this will be like, dude, they're not even mentioning the top 10 dunks of all time.
Oh,
right?
this
it's
is what matters
This
to
is
me.
this is what matters to you. And then
The
Chris
colorways
Reed,
I did.
We could pull out all the Chris Reed ones.
The superpower that Sandy had was building fucking teams.